Alright, you guys ready? Who did we choose for the next person?
Sister.
Esther. Maybe a very strange smile.
Hey, so.
Ellen, what is the name of your poem?
Called Principal Poem. Yes.
Or would you just modify it to poem?
Goodness. A force that is not controlled by man, yet fully expressed through relationship. A desire that must be built before you even pursue it. A life truly lived is one full of goodness. Understanding that to know is not enough, but learning never stops. Goodness loves without condition. Goodness is the way.
Thank you.
I like these. I don't know. They're not like contradictions, but they're like contrast is the word I'm looking for. I like the contrasts that you put in this poem.
Could you point a few of those out? I want to know which ones you're talking about.
The first one that stands out the most is understanding that to know is not enough, but learning never stops.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that that we can think about in a certain way because of what we went through with goodness. But another one is a desire that must be built before you can even pursue it. Before you even pursue it. I'm still thinking about that line. I might need to hear other people's thoughts on those two lines. A desire that must be built before you even pursue it.
I was wondering about that line too.
Yeah, that one stuck out to me the most as well. But before Esther does say anything about it, what are some of your initial thoughts? I think it's pretty straightforward, as much as it does cause you to think. So what are some of your thoughts?
Sorry, I have a question. Is it, are you saying like, goodness, cannot be limited to anything?
What do you like?
Like limited towards something?
Are you talking about the second to last line where it says goodness loves without condition? So you're basically just asking what she means by that?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, goodness is connected to love, and how Confucius talks about it and how we talk about it. And so I was just kind of relating that with love is without condition. And so goodness, love.
A lot of the,
Yeah, please.
said a lot of what the Analyx mentions in relation to the pursuit of learning is that in order to pursue it with the consistency and the almost the viciousness. I don't think that's quite the right word, but it's like in order to do that, you actually have to have a desire to do it, because that's the only thing that's going to motivate you to actually pursue it with the drive that you need to. And so I think that's what that line is speaking to, is you're gonna peter out and you're going to give up without that true desire.
Like a commitment.
Yeah.
To something.
Oh, okay. So our desires must be built before you pursue goodness itself. I was thinking before you can pursue the desire, it must be built. So that's where I was getting confused. But I understand better now.
In a way, that's kind of the same thing, sort of. because the desire, she describes goodness as a desire we can form. And so that means that goodness itself is the desire. Does that make sense? So before you even pursue it, it can be desire or goodness, because they're right, kind of the same thing.
How is it a desire if it's not controlled by man? You know what I mean?
Explain yourself a little bit more.
I think goodness and the desire for goodness is something that is within men, but is not controlled by men.
Right.
I think maybe that's related.
Yeah.
I'm kind of seeing it as you are introduced to goodness as something you know is good. It's kind of paradoxical way to describe goodness, but when it is first made known to you, you know it as a thing that is worthy of pursuing. But just because you would admit or agree with that doesn't mean you begin with a real desire for it. And so there's almost a bit of caution that is expressed in these two lines, because it is not something, it's not something to pursue in the wrong way, and that's all too possible. To pursue goodness as something that you would agree to be a worthy thing to pursue, but don't really want it because you don't really understand it, is to pursue something else entirely. I think that would also be a way to kind of go about it, I guess you could say like a little bit religiously. So you form kind of a false idea of goodness and you pursue that thing. So what has to take place first, as Esther's saying here, is the development or the building of a desire for it. As she says, before you even pursue it. And another thing that Esther's poem helps with too is describing what this, because before you can desire something, you have to kind of know what it is, right? That's also what Esther's doing, is she's describing goodness. So right above that, yet fully express the relationship. You guys were talking a little bit about love based on, or from Elisa's question about goodness, loving without condition. How much do you guys remember about that description of Rin, the term Rin, as it's been translated? Love is one, relationship. It carries a lot of meaning, that term. Human kindness was another way it's been translated. And it's a very unique term too, because can you guys recall how the Chinese character is written?
Third person and two, right?
Yes, yeah, so basically like two people, which is a very simple image of a relationship. So I guess what you could do first is recall some more of the meaning and consequence that term carries in our understanding of any of these principles first, and then see how it kind of applies to this poem. I mean, if you want, you could even go back to your notes. You're able to quickly access those, but hopefully it's something that you have some memory of, because we've gone over it several times together. What do you guys remember about Rin?
kind of like another word for benevolence, right? Goodness.
It is connected. It's, yeah. There actually is another term that means benevolence, but this is not a quiz. You're not like being tested or anything. It's just, but even if that's the connection you just recalled, then what stands out to you about that?
I don't know. I remember that benevolence connected to that, and I wrote my poem about benevolence.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, benevolence had, it was like a more practical exercise of something like Rin, where in the case of benevolence, it has to do with the expression of the right and orderly expression of your heart for others, especially in relationships that followed or were a part of a structure. So there are those that are above you, so to speak, like your parents, or those that are about you or around you, like your friends or your siblings. And then there are those who are beneath you, quote unquote, who say would be your servants or your employees or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So those who you are responsible for. Saying beneath you obviously doesn't sound very nice, but
So would that connect to filial piety too?
it would, yeah. With all of this in mind and some things that we're remembering about it, how does this enhance what we're seeing Esther expressing about goodness and saying things like, goodness loves without condition, and before that, yet fully expressed through relationship. Again, there's not a right or wrong answer here per se. This is just an opportunity for you to expound a little bit on the principle Esther poetically describing.
When it says fully expressed through relationship, it's like it's embodied. You need relationship for it to be present because it has everything to do with relationship.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just bringing in, again, the principle of Rin, it necessarily involves other people. Goodness is not, so what does this tell us? It says, it's telling us goodness is not merely an individual pursuit. It's not, it can't actually be that. It doesn't, yes, it is not, an independently sought after or formed virtue. I wouldn't want to keep digging into this part of the subject if nobody else is really tracking with it, but why would that be the case? That, like, why can't it be that, and we use this example a lot, but why can't it be that someone can or would pursue goodness after separating themselves from society and from people and from relationships altogether? Why couldn't that be the case? Why must it be with others? Think about what goodness is even for, what purpose that goodness serves. Like, don't just isolate it, bring it into the narrative of why do we exist even, why we are created, what our lives are for. Like, don't treat this as a subject that has nothing or very little to do with the conversations we have about living lives as sons or members of God's family. This is not, it's not separate from that. This is a way to bring further depth to that conversation, not to distract from it. So I really just wanted to hear some more from you guys about it and what Esther provides to us about this principle, this virtue.
Well, I'm connecting it to, I don't know if it has been connected to this before, but I'm thinking about the love of learning because the love of learning, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's a mindset that includes the laying down of your own ideas of thinking and things like that in order to interact with others in a certain way. I'm probably not making any sense. I'm like not at a conclusion right now. I'm just thinking through things.
That's good. I'd like more of us to be doing that together, because I'm kind of feeling a similar thing that maybe some of us are feeling, where like this should be kind of a conversation, but a lot of people are just kind of not offering much, and so the way that any of those that are trying to offer some things it begins to feel a little distracted or disorderly, because we can't really, there's not much response.
No flow.
Yeah, it was kind of a hindering of a flow or something. I'm not blaming this on any particular person. In fact, if anybody would be blamed, it'd probably be me, because I'm the one that's supposed to be facilitating the conversation. I'm trying my best.
Well, I'm
But
just kind of lost about, like, just everything connecting to goodness is still kind of, I don't know, just kind of hard for me to grasp, so I don't know how to add anything, but.
sure, I appreciate you being straightforward with that too.
I like the book a lot. It sounded very simple, and I don't mean that in a cruel way, but I think that's actually just the nature of it. It's simpler, the more you think about it, the more muddy it's going to get. At the end of the day, the poem sounded like you explaining to yourself where you thought goodness was. You had to solidify something that, as you guys like to put, it's a very living thing. Everything's case to case in the moment. But if you have to personify it, and that's what you did. And what you said about you need to build up before you can go for it, I understand that more in the opposite way, but meaning the same thing, where you need to let go first. You can't do the good thing if you expect a reward. You have to be entirely willing to just drop that, because that's not what I was doing it for. Like, I don't know, I struggle with that a lot. If people see me doing something, I get worse at it, because I can no longer clarify to myself, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. Now I'm doing it because someone's watching me. I need to do it. I need to look like I know what I'm doing instead of actually doing it right.
I think that actually goes very well along with what she's saying, because she's saying the desire must be built before you can act in it. You're saying the same thing, because it has to come from a place of, like, you're not doing it because of certain expectations or for what you get from it, but it's because of this desire that you've built.
Yeah, you have to give that up.
And it further connects to what precedes that, the very first part poem where it says, yet fully express the relationship. You just described an instance where you're able to do something because you know it's right when you're not around others.
Yep.
But as this is describing, it can only become real when it is with and around others. And that's the very circumstance or point in which you struggle most to do that thing. But it's only in such a case that it really becomes real, it becomes complete. Of course, we're still being very general about what it is that we're doing, but in this case, to use your practical example as an analogy to this, what we're talking about is it is learning to, I guess one thing we could say is it's learning to love other people. So going back to that principle of Rin, it maybe is much easier to do that in our imaginations or from a distance or by ourselves than it is to do that with other people in those difficult and awkward circumstances where we feel as if we are, or something is being expected of us, or we are seen in a certain way, whatever it is.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's definitely also the point of view. I agree. I think relationship is where it is, once again, bringing up simple meaning actually hard to understand. That is it. Relationship, like in truth and kindness to everyone done for the point of that, it's too simple to just go, oh yeah, I can see it. But you'll know it. You know it in your heart because you feel better around those that you cherish. And you expect it. You know that they cherish you to some degree.
Yeah, I feel like that connects a little bit back to the line that stood out to me the most was love without condition, I think is what it said.
Yeah, without reward or expected reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not letting go of just like giving the things you love and your relationships to the Lord, because if you hold on to that so tightly, then when you have to let go at the right time, then it will be harder for you and it will make it more painful. And if you just like release those things, then they will grow in the right timing and in the right. Mm-hmm.
And the right environment.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the last line, goodness is the way, because that's pretty all-encompassing. I know we've talked about that before too, what the way is, and it almost makes it we were just talking about this in our analytics class, but like something being a means to an end, goodness. But I think it's helpful to clarify that a little bit. I don't have the words myself, but I think I was thinking about it and try not to see goodness as a means to an end.
Yeah.
Just to get to something. But more as, a living way that you get to practice and learn from. So I guess kind of like a person in a way. You get to walk with along the journey.
What Elisa said about goodness loves without condition was helping me to see that in a more expanded way, because I normally just think of it as like, oh, they don't love you because of something that you've done for them or anything like that. They just love you no matter what. It's also like the love comes from a source deep enough that none of the circumstances, it doesn't even have to be related to people, but nothing around you can change that love, because that love is a person that you know. So I just thought that was cool because I was trying to connect what Elisa was saying to my own understanding of loving without condition.
In part to answer what you were saying, Benji, and also to get back to Hannah and just kind of struggling to see how, I guess as you put it, goodness connects to everything. It's, goodness gives us a bit of the word I want to use is paradigm. Does anyone not know what that means? I hope that's the right word. It's,
A challenge or a difficulty, but at the same time, it's
well, no,
a conundrum.
not that. It's like it gives us a bit of a structure to our I guess you could say our worldview. So to acknowledge goodness as existing means not merely existing for individual to individual. So what's good for you is maybe not good for me, but goodness doesn't depend on personal perspective. It is like truth in that it's set. And so what that first permits us to do is recognize that the world is not a neutral, everything goes place. So there is good and there is evil, basically. There is, to put it into a greater perspective, a kingdom of light and a kingdom of darkness. The world is, again, I will repeat myself, it's not a neutral place. There are positive things, or things that trend in a positive direction, and there are things that are negative or trend in a negative direction. And goodness, or a person that is good, is someone that pursues the good, that desires the good. Or as Esther is saying, it even is someone who is building or developing the desire to pursue the good, because that's something that itself is a process that takes time. And so, Haley earlier mentioned the love of learning, and I was reminded of one of the intellects that mentioned goodness itself being tempered by the love of learning, because if it's not, then part of that intellect says, if one loves goodness but does not love the love of, or does not have the love of learning, that leads to, I think the word was deviance. Or no, it was foolishness, I'm sorry. So that's another very important qualification that Esther gives us. It's saying goodness is a desire that must grow in us first, that must be informed in us first. Because if we pursue good things, or what we think are good things, without wisdom, without instruction, or without guidance, then it is all too possible to be led into foolishness, which is obviously a lack of discernment. So goodness, even goodness, is something, the pursuit of goodness is something in us that needs to be tempered and directed and led and put in the right, be exercised in the right wisdom. So going back a little bit to what I started with, seeing it as something that kind of gives some structure and direction to the way we see the world and pursue things in life. Does that kind of make sense, or explain a little bit how goodness really does kind of connect to everything? Because as simple as that sounds, to acknowledge there being good and there being bad is actually a pretty powerful acknowledgement to make, because we can just see the way arguments about different ways of believing things in this world currently go is usually an undermining of that fundamental principle of there being things that are good, there being pursuits in life that are good, and there being those that are bad. It's good to have that said. It's good to be informed in that. It's good to grow wise in that, rather than see it as something that is just a construct of the human mind. Hopefully that's making some sense. But that is essentially what we have done when we are saying we are pursuing goodness, or developing a desire for goodness, or describing another person as good. Obviously to admit goodness as existing in the first place, which is also, as a result, to admit that there are things that are not good, that lack in goodness. Anyways.
I was thinking about how Confucius will be so reluctant to call someone like virtuous or good or things like that. I don't remember the exact words, but it reminded me of how I'm thinking about what you were talking about that, knowing that there is good and evil. That we all have the I don't know. I was just thinking about mixture in general, because I think we all have mixture within ourselves. And while there's not like a neutrality, there is mixture, and mixture is complicated because it's both. But there is still a distinction between those within a person.
It's not a mixture that like settles in us. Mm-hmm. It's a mixture that's constantly battling in us.
Yeah.
To put it into other words that are used by Paul, it's that battle against the flesh and the spirit. It's two different natures.
Yeah, they're still distinct from each other. It's
they don't compromise.
Yeah.
They always are struggling against one another in us. Yeah. Esther?
They're all random thoughts.
No, that's not. I understand. Do you want to share? I think someone had asked you from the very beginning about, I think, was it Elisa, or was it someone before Elisa that asked you something in particular about your poem?
Oh, that I had asked about something, and then I had answered like I figured it out.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you brought out a lot of stuff. No, that that brings out a lot in my poem. The two lines that you guys were talking about the most, that stood out to people, desiring that must be built before you pursue it, was something I had seen in my notes. And, well, the reason I chose goodness in the first place was like, because I was going through the notes that I had been taking in your class, and almost all of them, there was something about goodness. So I thought that would be a cool thing to write a poem about. But I wrote down something that you had probably said or read in the introduction, but you have to learn the desire to express goodness and then learn how, which is where I kind of built those two lines off of. And then something else I have in my notes is the color is put in after the line is done. That comes to that kind of one. But yeah, I mean,
Wait, say what you just said again.
the color is put in after the lining is done.
Is that, you said that was something you heard?
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have too much else.
Yeah, you did tackle a pretty hard one, but I think you did really well.
I like that line a lot, the colors put in. I think that we might just contextualize that related to coloring books, but I mean, it still has the same meaning. But I watch a lot of those making videos of like ancient making, and specifically with Chinese art and fashioning. And so a lot of times they'll like, they'll start from raw materials, and even the colors that they put in are made of different rocks and things that they smash down to powder and mix with stuff. But like, if they're doing a lot of the color in ancient Chinese artifact is like etched in, and so they hand chisel in all of the intricate designs, and then the color goes into the place that they chiseled. There's a little bit more imagery there for the context of what something goes into and what's done ahead of time before, but then it takes this whole other, not shape, but yeah, it's definitely another dimension. It adds more to its beauty and depth and shape. It accentuates the shape and brings out the imagery in a different way. So it shows itself differently.
The closest. Oh, who was about to say something? Go ahead. I was just going to say really quickly that the closest example Confucius uses to that same sort of thing is in his description of the difference between native substance and cultural refinement. And he describes it as being like a face, which represents the native substance, and then cultural refinement being the way to accentuate the beautiful features of that face using makeup. And that it actually can be, there's a danger in overdoing it, because you can put on too much makeup, or you can put it on improperly, and so it actually undermines the what should have been more clearly and vividly presented as far as the actual structure and features of the face go. But anyways, let's go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like that saying as well, because it's like the lines and like, I guess drawing, like line art, it refines it, and then the colors give it life, and it defines, I guess, what it is.
And that's what I could see happening with someone that pursues goodness without a true desire for it, is that there's no initial guidance or structure given by the lines before the color is applied. And so then you eventually don't have something that's presentable. You don't have something that's complete before that desire is developed in you. I know we keep returning to those two lines in Esther's poem, but I feel like there's a lot there that we could glean from. Because if we pursue anything meaningful in this life without a true desire to do so, then that seems like, how can we even get to that place? But you can, that's the danger, is it's possible to pursue a thing without a desire to do it, without truly pursuing it. Or as Esther would say, a life truly lived is one full of goodness.
And you can desire to do good things, but not really understand what the nature of the good things are.
Yeah.
So you've got a desire,
So you don't
and that desire is something that is looked on positively, but it still may be empty because it lacks the essence of what the good thing is. And so just to know something is good to do, to pursue, to say, doesn't carry in your inner man not even the weight, but the ability to express itself with sincerity or without some sort of, incompleteness or counterfeit nature. Because it's not rooted in that's weird because there is a desire, but the desire is to, and almost like on a very high level, to know and to be able to say that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If you desire is the same word as motivation, right? What's motivating you, right? So in that situation, you have the wrong motives in how you approach goodness.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you're talking about with having to understand it to be able to desire it. When Tim was talking, I realized that you have to be able to know why you want it. Like why do I want to have this or be able to walk in this?
This is, for some reason, this is bringing me back to the scripture we went over so many times when we were going through the foundational teachings, the elementary teachings, which was when Paul would say, you need milk and not solid food. So we spiritually speaking even, we begin at a place where we begin in a place of desiring to, or learning how to desire. And so as a result, there are things that cannot be taught to us or brought to us because we're still at that infantile stage of receiving from the Lord things that are fit for our season of spiritual development. And that is an acceptable place to begin in, but not to remain in. We can't say that we begin in a place of truth. It's just an interesting thing to think. We can't actually say that we begin in a place of mature desire. Mature desire for the solid food, if you will, is something is a place itself to be desired and arrived at through the process and timing that the Lord permits us to walk through and to grow in. So that's kind of that's the example that my dad has used many times of the danger in there being things that one like desires, but that are beyond one's season or spiritual maturity, and to pretend as if those are things that one does have the ability to engage with and long for, if you will cause nothing but damage and distraction or entirely mislead the people that seem to be going after the greater things, the solid food. This is also very lofty language and general language, but I'm seeing that same kind of principle at play in this, if that does make any sense.
Well, it's kind of like we get to a place where we can trick ourselves a little bit. So, I don't know if it's what you meant, and I'm not trying to say anything contrary, but like, I think most people that think in a certain way are not necessarily pretending. They don't think they're pretending.
Right.
But there's a difference between good for the sake of good when you don't really know what good is. And so you're like, well, why do you want it? Well, because it's good. You see, it's a loop that has no practical, applicable depth. So good for goodness sake, it's not really goodness. It's a lesser thing. And what it reminded me of was when one of the religious teacher or something comes to Jesus and says, "Good teacher."
Mhm.
And he says, "Why do you call me good?" Well, because you're good. You're doing this. See, there's a perception of good. And I'm good to call you good. And I'm fully confident in my reasoning for calling you good. But Jesus kind of exposes that. He's not trying to expose the person,
Right.
but almost the ignorance of the true nature of what is good. And so he actually points to that. Only God is good. And, I just, especially especially for most of us who grew up in religious context, church, families, words are easy.
Yeah.
Most people know how to say what to say. But God sees the reality. And I'm not saying that I think we should use those things as a judgment in our inner man and our own conscience, because it's such a danger. There is an imagination there that actually it's self-deceiving. And if you look through the scriptures, it's very easy to see through the traveling and leadership cycles that Israel goes through. You have an imagined right and an actual right. And then, that came to the time of Jesus and the apostles as well. So the man's tendency to think that way and to justify himself is not because he's cognitively in deceit or trying to deceive. Obviously, people do that. But the majority of misconception is sincere. It's just not true. And that's something that always stands before us. That's where a concept like goodness can be very confusing, because how it's really expressed is not by how it's spoken, eloquently or otherwise. And it's not even necessarily by the things you do. It's the things that are produced from you, from the way that you do things. And amazingly, at the surface, that doesn't have anything to do with right and wrong. It has to do with what's produced through the way that you went through and what follows you. I think there's a scripture that says something about the goodness of God following. Well, that's the product, the fruit that is born from this thing. Jesus Christ's death is a very obvious and easy one to see. The laying down his life produced with fruit on the surface. Nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed good. Even from his own standpoint, But he knew good beyond himself. And so it produced something in him. And Paul obviously struggled with those same things. But the fruit of his ministry, of his way of life, of his teaching, was something very different. And so that in some of that hindsight and writing to, churches like the people in Philippi or Ephesus, he says, wow, there's evidence of this goodness and truth, not necessarily but because I said so, but because of what it produced in you. And now the evidence is, I can see this way of life because I see it in the way that you love one another. I see it in the way that you lay your lives down for one another. I see it in the way that you love beyond each other's shortcomings. I see that. And that's the evidence of this truth and goodness at work. Not that you wrote me and said, look at all that we're doing, look at all that we're teaching, look at all that we're saying, look at all that we've accomplished. It's a very different view of how that is seen in one's life. And he shows the exact opposite too. You say, I mean, look at the letters to the churches in Revelation. We're alive, we need nothing, we're wealthy. No, actually you're poor, blind, naked, all of those things. But you don't see that. So their perception is not that at all. Their perception is, we're okay. We know we're okay. But the lamp, of the fiery lamp, is in the inner place, and nothing is hidden. That's in the dark place. And it shows what's in the dark. So Jesus comes very boldly there, actually, with that light, and says, be careful. You may not be what you think you are. And that is, the self-deception of a concept like goodness, but obviously it's a much broader issue in man's ways.
I mean, I can't ignore the process of understanding goodness outside of creation of man, where we were created in God's image. So in the beginning of time, there was full goodness in man because of that life breathed into man, and then later taken and given a second life in woman, and that relationship with God was unbroken until the tree of knowledge of good and evil was then partaken, and that fruit is what causes, at least in my simplicity, in my simple mind, of the tree of life.
A different perception of good and evil.
Yeah. Right, and then all of a sudden we know good from evil, and are we fully capable of goodness? No, not until we are fruiting out the tree of life, and the tree of life is within us. That God's life is what is the only goodness. That is the only goodness.
But all of them were deceived.
There's this. I was watching this interview the other day, and was interviewing an actor, and this actor played like a Nazi officer in this movie, and the guy is he's evil in the movie, right? Just really, really evil. And in this interview, they were interviewing him, and they were saying, "Man, you captured evil so well. Like, what was your motivation? How did you think about this? What were you seeing?" And he said he didn't think he was evil. He thought he was a good guy. Right? And that's how that true evil actually came out.
That's me.
Yeah.
I wonder how this guy is in real life.
Yeah.
Well, but not to get totally off, you say Nazi, and Hitler thought he was doing stuff for God.
Yeah.
That's where his heart had understood, and he was like, well, why wouldn't I destroy this, in his mind, evil people? No, I don't even know. I don't go in that psychology because I don't get it, but that's wild for me to think on it.
Yeah.
I just thought of this is the last thing I'll mention. Just a small example my dad has brought up before of his experience in youth. Before he could read, always turning to the parts in scripture where it was red lettering, because he knew that was when Jesus was talking. And I think that is the case with many people, just going back to this principle of learning to desire rightly and to desire the right things in the right season before you can claim to truly desire the greater things. Is in that case, we have a young boy who it would be really easy to call or to say that he's desiring what is good. And I would say that in a longer term perspective, that is true. There's something very promising about this very pure desire that he's showing by turning to the parts of scripture with red lettering. But what would you present this boy as someone that can teach the scriptures? Not yet, obviously. What should his desire be in this case. Yeah, you should learn how to read first. And then, like, that's kind of that milk versus the solid food difference that I'm seeing there is there's almost a duty, a responsibility we have in the things that we do desire in order to progress, or as Esther says, build that desire within us. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say something. You know, like we're talking, God wants to have a living relationship with us, like in our everyday life. And so he says, if you want wisdom, ask.
Yeah.
And so he's not wanting us to be these people who just assume. And in any circumstance in life, just as we're walking through Ecclesiastes, he's talking about this heaven, you know, under the sun, this lower way of existence, not the eternal way, the lower way. And anytime our feet aren't planted right where we are, we're in danger of being in heaven. So it has to do with everything that's circumstantial. I'm talking about, what am I going to become? Who am I going to marry? What job am I going to have? All these things that swarm around in us, that's all hevel. And God wants to give us a different wisdom. It's set apart. It's eternal, you know? But here's where the trick comes. Not trick. It's not a trick. That's the beautiful thing of it. But he wants it to be a relationship. And so if you can take it for what he's actually offering, he wants to dwell with us. All the time. In every single thing. So he doesn't want us to just be full of this like knowledge and pack it away and us think we've got him figured out. We miss it completely. That's what he has to say about our knowledge. I mean, honest to goodness. He wants it to be living and breathing in us. So he wants us to have it, but he wants to actually like bring it to you every single day. And so like this living relationship, you've got to ask for wisdom. Ask for it daily. Like the manna. He doesn't want it to be something that we collect in a book or talk about. Well, I know is struggling to get through the class because he doesn't want it to be this intellectual thing. This is eternal blessing and inheritance he's giving to us to actually change our life. But it can't just be some thing that we write down in a book or we talk about. He wants us to go to him every single day, like Matt is my husband, like John and Katie. They wake up in the morning and they talk to each other. We talk to each other. That's what he wants. That's the way he wants his wisdom dispensed. Every day, just like that. The Holy Spirit will do that. I promise you. Ask him for it every day, every moment. Take him with you. No more of this in and out of the tent business. I only think about him or turn to him when I go this place or that. No, you guys. Every single one of you know it. You know it. He's reaching inside of you and he's speaking to you. It's very evident. But he's spoken to you, now he's waiting for a response. That's on you, that's your relationship with him in the secret place. And that's the kind of wisdom that I'm saying. It changes everything. Because he knows you. He knows the inside of you and what needs to be worked out so that you can walk in full communion with him, God first, and then full communion with God's people. God first, love others. He'll do it perfectly, is what I'm just trying to say. He'll give you the wisdom perfectly. And it's living. It's active. And the Bible and all these things that we're learning, they'll just be a testimony. You'll see. Talk to each other. He's actually doing it. It's all over. I could cry about it. I won't go on anymore. Thank you for letting me share a little bit of my heart. But I'm just so moved by God And the living wisdom he wants to give us is very, very different, and it's eternal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's really encouraging for me.
me too. God's doing that for us.
Yeah. Well, Esther, we spent the whole session on your phone. Thank
Because
you.
it was good.
I think that'll be it for today. If you want to choose, well, actually, first, the two people we read last time were Lisa and Isaac. Did you guys get your texted responses from other people? Doesn't sound like everybody did. So, homework again will be, please text Esther if you're not sure anything today. And then if you also not sure anything to Isaac and Lisa this last week, go ahead and do that as well, please. So that's it. And then Esther, if you want to choose the next person. Raise your hands if you have not found it. Highly appreciate it. All right, that is it. Thank you.